And we are live. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello, hello. How's it going? It's been a couple
First
of
of all,
weeks.
it has been a couple of weeks. That's my bad. I had to push off on our. We generally record, I think, on Tuesdays. Had to push off for some reason, and then our kids were off of school, and they're not in camp yet. So
Not our kids, his kids.
yeah, my kids are in school, so we're not in school. So we had to do mom and dad camp. So it was a little bit hard to find time. And then the last couple of days we went to Pennsylvania, did a little bit of Sesame Place, a little bit of Big Bird, Ernie, I don't know.
A little bit of Amish country going on.
It's funny because my youngest, Shia, was we waited in line to get a picture with Big Bird. And when we finally get up there, he was absolutely terrified. I mean, it's a massive.
A lot of kids are.
It's like a 7-foot tall bird.
So for sure with Big Bird, but I feel like a lot of kids get nervous when, you would think, the idea of it. I mean, there are kids who love seeing their characters in real life, but when they see them and it's something you saw on TV. So I feel like it's that overwhelming thing that they don't know how to process it yet. But also it's the fact that, are you real? Because you're not a regular person. You're dressed up in something, but what are you? Are you a monster? I feel like it's a weird thing for them.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I could so see Shia freaking out though and slapping Big Bird.
It's funny because they never listened to or watched Sesame Street, so we had to pack it all in on the ride up there. They were listening to all the songs. I mean, they still had a great time, but they were never into Sesame Street.
Well, I guess if Menachem Mendel and Sprinza had a place for you guys to go with all the
also,
stuff.
Just a cool tidbit. My roommate when I was in yeshiva in Rabbi Brazil's in Israel, Eli Brand. Shout out Ellie Brand. I just reached out to him yesterday.
From Baltimore?
No. His grandfather was one of the writers for Sesame Street. His name is Oscar Brand. And
oh my God.
That is who Oscar the Grouch is named for, his grandfather.
Really? Does he get royalties
he told me,
and shit?
I might be getting the story wrong, so Ellie, if you do listen to this, I apologize, but I think it was something along the lines of when they were writing the show, he wanted the actual neighborhood to have a realistic feel to it, and so he suggested, for example, putting out garbage cans or things to make the street look like a regular street.
Well, if you wanted to look like New York City, you just throw garbage everywhere. You don't need the cans.
All over the streets and put weird liquid. I remember I dropped something.
And skyrocket that rent.
I was in New York once with my friend Morty, and I dropped something on next to the curb, and I went to pick it up, and it had a little bit of that New York City floored street juice. And he's like, "Dude, put that down, and then go burn the tips of your fingers. You cannot
just chop off the damn hand. Burning won't help. Just abort hand immediately.
Remove the limb, right?
Oh my God, literally, it's like Survivor. You literally don't know what kind of bacterial infection you're going to get from that shit. Speaking of which, Madonna apparently is in the ICU with some sort of bacterial infection. She has to postpone her tour.
Is it from surgeries?
Plastic surgery? I don't know. It kind of would be funny though, because I was kind of totally thinking that. What if I mean, not funny, but if an implant exploded or something like that. But they said it's a bacterial infection. So some people are speculating. Obviously, no one knows, but possibly sepsis or something. Because they said specifically bacterial, her team, not a viral infection. So, but I mean, I guess that's what happens, not to be ageist, but when you're 90 and trying to go on a tour and maybe pushing yourself to your limits.
She's 90?
No, okay, fine. I really am. I sound ageist. Okay, fine. I'm sorry, PC people. But no, she's Alexa, how old is Madonna? Oh, she doesn't even answer. Alexa, how old is Madonna? If you say it again, she listens.
64 years old.
64. Okay.
Okay, 64. I'm pretty sure she's right. I'm pretty sure she was born before that, but whatever.
But something that I wanted to mention that I brought up right before we went live, which I think is wild, is some people might be familiar with the fact that Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta, he competes in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in BJJ. And
he does this normally.
Yeah, and
pasty white Mark Zuckerberg, who's socially awkward alike.
A few months ago, he entered a tournament with he put a mask on and kind of tried to disguise himself until he actually had to fight, and I'm pretty sure he won. He's been doing it for a while. He trains almost every day.
You know what? He must be practicing real hard in the metaverse. That's probably what it is.
But Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk apparently are having a fight. They're having an upcoming fight. I'm assuming just on the mask.
Hold on. You know, in like fighting games, like back in the days on PlayStation, everything, like you choose the location of your fight. What if they like choose on fucking Mars or something? Like a SpaceX like location.
I'm trying to see where what like the rules are gonna. I don't totally understand if it's gonna be like a regular MMA fight or if it's just gonna be um like BJJ where there's no like striking. It might just be grappling. But
Honestly, I think it would be pretty damn funny if two of the richest men would charge for tickets or people to watch this fight.
so it's funny because Lex Friedman, who just had Mark Zuckerberg on a few weeks ago, he trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu every day. So him and Mark were they trained a little bit together, and then a few days ago, Lex Friedman he posted that he had an impromptu training session with Elon Musk, and he was like really surprised by his strength.
Impromptu, yeah, you know, when you just have like a random fight session with Elon.
Right, and then George St. Pierre, who's one of the greatest fighters of all time, my personal favorite fighter growing up, reached out to Elon on Twitter and said, "I would love to help train you for the fight with Mark Zuckerberg." And he's like, "Absolutely, let's do it." So now he's got George St. Pierre in his corner. This is going to be. I mean, if this is like,
well, who's going to be watching Sachet 12 when he's out fighting him, though?
If this would be, if this would be a pay-per-view fight, it would probably be the biggest fight of all time. I can't imagine.
Yeah. Except for then Jake Paul is going to try to want to get into that action as well.
Right. He also has an upcoming fight with
He
Nate
still
Diaz.
does that?
Well, he lost to Tommy Fury, who was like the first actual current boxer that he fought. And then now, I guess since he lost, everyone's joking that now that he lost, he's back to fighting retired MMA fighters. So, I mean, they do it.
You should start fighting like burnt out YouTubers who aren't that relevant anymore. By the way, oh my God. Well, yeah, I know. Hold on. But I just don't want to forget this. Yeah, the boxing gloves thing with the Ace family. They're a whole scam, allegedly, but it's totally. What was I just going to say? Because we were just talking about the fighting and the this and the that. And I totally just lost my train of thought. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Hello. Remember Miranda Sings from YouTube?
No.
Quickly Google Miranda Sings. Okay. Because I never watched her channel. I was never subscribed to that. But like everyone who's ever been on YouTube back in the day, like Shane Dawson, like back in the day, like when he was one of the OGs, she was like the one who played this character with this red lipstick all over and like super bizarre, not my kind of humor in the least bit. So like, apparently she's now being
fans of making up lies and rumors for clout.
So hold on. So fans are accusing her of like grooming and this and that, blah blah blah. And her response video, grooming is when you like what predators do. It's basically where you don't just like go into it. You know, you slowly gain their attention, make them feel like they have no one else. Like, so that's really what it is in order to do that. So, and her like response and everything, she sat in front of her camera, singing a song on a ukulele, strumming along a ukulele. I'm talking about getting on the gossip train and this whole thing. And then she talks about taking accountability for something she said she'd never done, but she did mistakes in the past that she looks back at now. Not because she was a predator, but because she's a loser. Like literally, this is what she's saying in this song. And her team told her not to talk about it on camera. So she decided to sing about it. It was like the weirdest thing ever. Like the weirdest thing ever. Like Charlie made a whole video on it, and it was like, the weirdest thing I've.
Yeah, this sounds crazy.
Like, if it's not true or whatever, like I feel like you're strumming on a ukulele, making some song, and not even saying anything. Like you're just talking about the gossip train. You guys are the ones who are causing this, and if she really didn't do anything like that, then like at least like say your piece, like do something, you know, damage control. I'm sure a PR team would have like a thing to do, but like
I think it definitely shows that she's not fully healthy.
Nah. I mean, also playing the characters she did and everything. Like you can't be a grown ass woman doing that. But like supposedly she was talking to like she was a grown woman. She's older than us. And like she was like talking to like 14-year-old boys and sent them pictures. 14.
Yeah, I think on the list of potential responses to grooming allegations from minors, singing a 10-minute ukulele song.
Also, it kind of like it's a slap in the face. Like, or let's say she really didn't do it, but like, wouldn't she be if let's say she didn't do it, and maybe these boys had some sort of experience where they felt that she did. Maybe she didn't, and maybe it was just something that made them uncomfortable. Then, like strumming on some song or whatever, it's kind of like spitting in someone's face who could feel that way because it's like it's showing no accountability. It's showing no respect. It's not saying, and she talks about in the song that like, you know, she takes accountability and everything, but it's like, but for what? You said you literally didn't do anything. People are making.
But what
rumors and
if
everything like that.
it's completely not true and the victims are either delusional or making it up for clout?
Then either make a statement, or if you can, or your team thinks it's not a good thing to do, or if you need to take legal action in order to fight these allegations to make your reputation pure again because you really didn't do something like this and you want to fight for defamation, then do that.
Right.
But making some song, it's like you literally mock the situation, and now even if you do take accountability or legal action or something, everyone has a bitter taste in their mouth from what you just did. Like,
right.
I think, and you know, there's so many YouTuber apologies where it's like they're a mess. They're literally a mess and could literally be a series of its own. This almost like this tops that. I think the only other one was some girl who I never heard of, but my friend sent me the video and told me the story just because it was the most ridiculous thing. Where her apology video was a choreographed, professionally edited and recorded like interpretive dance. Not even
It's pretty wild.
The most bizarre thing, right? And but like also they say that these boys have photos and everything, and it's like I just like I just don't like 14. It's like they're literally a child. Like it's, you know, I remember when I was younger or whatever, you know, when I was in like high school or like even like, you know, late elementary school, it's like, you know, you heard of those teachers that like ended up like sleeping with one of their students or something. And like, you know, I remember watching the show Pretty Little Liars, and it really kind of fantasized and made it think because this girl in the show literally like hooked up with this guy in a bar even though she was in high school, and then it turned out to be her teacher, and they still kept it on even though he's literally her teacher. He's a grown-ass man. She's literally in 9th or 10th grade in the show. And it's like they had all these things. So it was kind of like, ooh, well, what if I had like some super hot teacher? And it's like, on your end, like, you know, when people say like it was consensual and this and that, when you're that age and you fantasize about like some hot teacher or something like that, it might sound really cool and enticing when you're a kid. But on that person's end, as a grown adult, like being a grown adult, to do that, it's like, it doesn't matter about consent. It's like they're literally a child who like just started puberty, mind you. Frightening. Really frightening. So if this is really true, it's kind of really messed up, and she should really seek help because that's really concerning.
Yeah, I don't. I can't even begin to understand that sort of craziness.
Like, you know, I watch a lot of true crime and like all this kind of stuff, and I always like try to step into the minds of people. Like even like, you know, if my friends are ever having like, you know, some sort of drama or anything like that, I always like to play devil's advocate. I always like to try to see both sides. So like a lot of these shows, like I'll try to like understand like, not that it, you know, the things that might have led up to it, not at all that it excuses it, but like maybe they went through something so traumatic. It's like you try to get in the mindset to try to wrap your head around the fact that someone human could do something like that. And like, you know, the show To Catch a Predator and all this stuff, it's like maybe like they went through something, but it's just like, even if you have these feelings and stuff like that, when you're actually going through with that, you're like, it's like it's just next level. It's horrible, which is why they say a lot of the predators and stuff who end up in prison are the ones who are like murdered first, because like, you know, even with horror movies, I love horror movies. The two things that I just can't do is when animals are hurt or abused or children. Like those are things that like really hurt me because like there's just such an innocence, and it's like not only are you like taking that away for so many selfish, disgusting reasons and everything, but you are now literally ruining that child's life for the rest of their life.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned the animals thing, because obviously for most people, I feel like that always hits harder than when like a person gets killed. But like, for example, in the John Wick movies, they just made their 4th one, which are insanely popular. Seen it yet.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen the 4th one. The entire movie, everyone that he kills, it all just gets traced back to the fact that they killed his dog. That's why.
That's why he kills those people?
Yeah. The first movie begins, and everything that happens from that is because when they break into his house, they kill his dog. They shot his dog. So everyone watching is just like, green light, you can do whatever you want, and then you just
I know. I'm sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, okay, like, yeah, right. I get that 100%.
Yeah.
Forget Taken. Like, if my daughter got kidnapped, like, whatever, have another one. No, I'm just kidding. But like, you know, if anyone came for Milo, my dog, I would destroy them. I would destroy them or hire a John Wick. I don't know if I could be the John Wick in this situation. But yeah, no. Can't do that.
Yeah, I think it's the idea of, at least in my opinion, I feel like it. They're indefensible. They can't do anything, and it's just taking advantage of someone who obviously or something that cannot do anything. It's like murdering like a child, or chas v'shalom, or like someone who can't do anything to defend themselves.
And it's like, it's also like there's, murder all around is bad. Like there's nothing to it. But there's also like
agreed.
No, right? No, but there's also a lot of different things within it. Like not that one's better than the next, but I feel like there's certain things like, for example, like that's why there's different murder charges, like first degree, second degree. It's like if it's in a heated passion moment between like lovers and like there was a whole crazy thing that had built up to something and someone did something so stupid and crazy and they do deserve to be in jail the rest of their life. But it was all that emotional stuff that was invested in everything that has a psychological aspect to it. Whereas somebody who's just a serial killer or a blatant murderer who just murders people or picks up people in the street and kills them, it's like that's next level because you literally don't even know those people. There's no emotional attachment. It's literally just for this crazy craving of some sort. And it's like that's next level. And also shooting someone with one bullet versus like stabbing someone when you're physically forcing an object into somebody. And then usually when people do that, they don't do it once. They're like repeatedly doing it. It's like, that's like next level. Like, I feel like, it's like you have like a knee-jerk reaction where your body like can't do it. Like right. It's crazy. Like I have a friend, him, and he has like, he's a hemophiliac. So like he would always like draw blood from himself. So one time he was like, oh, you want to do it for me? And I was like, put the thing in. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And like, he hands it me and I'm like looking at his vein and I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. Like, I'm literally like, I'm like, I can't. Like, he's right. Like, no, it's really not a big deal. You're not going to, I'm like, like I can't. Like, it's like, there's something weird. Maybe if I was a nurse or something, I could be, but I don't know if it's for me. But like, so like, I feel like your body would have a natural reaction. It's like, body language, or if you're, you're using a toothbrush and you have a gag reflex, or you don't. But it's like your body naturally does something. I don't know how someone could do that.
Yeah, I think really obviously I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I feel like it depends on how you're raised and what kind of environment.
You're not a psychologist? If you were on TikTok, you'd be a psychologist because
right.
there's plenty of people there.
It depends if you grow up in an area or a country or a neighborhood where violence is common, or everyone knows someone that's been killed or something. The idea of death is not as far removed from them as other people, but no, for sure, still like certain things. That's why it's why a lot of times we'll refer to these people as inhuman. It's because it's so far removed from what any of us can even contemplate doing, that it just seems mind-boggling to be able to do that to another person. There's obviously something way off.
Like, I feel like the prison system in America is not built to rehabilitate people in any way, not murderers, like anybody. I feel like it's really just to lock you up. There's plenty of countries who have programs. There's these two people who just graduated from Yale University, and they did all their studies in jail and everything. It's like, there are people who could be rehabilitated. There are people who were like shoved into jail for years just selling weed. Like, it's like there's so many different levels. And I feel like in America, there is no program to rehabilitate you. It's like, just get these people out of society.
Do you know
why? No.
Money. Because the prison systems are privately owned.
Right.
There are some federal prison systems, but
federal. That's why.
All the correctional facilities that are privately owned. It's just saying. I was having a discussion yesterday with my wife about. I was listening to a podcast and with a doctor who's.
Was it All Brucked Up?
No, but for some reason he's considered controversial. I just want to get his name right.
Everybody is considered controversial these days.
His name is Dr. Asim Malhotra. He's on Wikipedia. He's a controversial British cardiologist, public health campaigner, author, and advocate against the use of COVID vaccines, even though he took the vaccine. But I listened to his whole thing. But what they were discussing, and we've touched upon this briefly in the past, America is like one of only two countries in the world where pharmaceutical companies are allowed to advertise on TV. Not only that,
I never realized
a majority of the commercials, a majority of advertisements, and a majority of the funding for all the networks come from pharmaceuticals.
Remember, we spoke about this before. Khloe Kardashian with her migraines, and she's talking about her Nurtec, or Vanessa Hudgens with some birth control. I'm like, aside from just advertising commercials, you're going to get celebrity endorsements. Like it's freaking like, Oh Fresh, or what's that thing? HelloFresh? Like, seriously? Like, it's not HelloFresh or Raycons. Like, it's literally they're medications.
Right. Like, they're clearly not in it because they care so much about helping people. They literally just want to make money, make the board and their investors happy, and that's all they care about. And he mentioned a study that was done between 2000 and 2008, I think. 75% of the hundreds of approved FDA drugs in America, 75% were just repurposed older medications they had already made, where they just changed a couple of molecules and rebranded it, and only like 11% actually provided benefit in a real and tangible way.
Well, it's like even what's it called? Even the Sackler family, they're the ones who like literally like were a large contributor, if not the contributor, to the opioid epidemic.
Right. I remember that
with OxyContin. And like, aside from the fact that they literally spent so much time and everything to really cover it up, to make fake studies, to do all this stuff, because they knew. It's not like they didn't know. They really knew, it was the most successful medication they've ever made. It was flying off the shelves. They were literally having a whole pyramid scheme. It was like an MLM, having people selling it out the door to different facilities. And when it started to become a thing, they claim that they put in this like time, they changed the thing a little bit, the formula, so this way it's time released, except for there was a really easy way of literally just taking that out of it. So people were just doing that. It took 2 seconds, but they just did it to be like, oh, look, we're really taking action. It's like they did not. They wanted this to happen.
One of the things that he mentioned was that the pharmaceuticals, whenever you see a pharmaceutical study or when a medication is advertised or they mention a study with it, they're not showing you the actual scientific study or the outcomes. What they're showing you is their own doctor's interpretations of the study.
Also, hold on. Was it a third-party study? Was it an in-house study? How many patients were it? Were they different in any way? Like, there's so many components that go into a clinical study.
Even then, the conclusion, all you're shown is the conclusion based off their understanding of the study. They're not showing you the study. They're showing you, our doctors, looked at whatever happened at the outcome, and this is the determination that they made.
If it's a new medication, then they know from that study, or they have multiple studies before it's on people, obviously, but they don't know the long-term effects or anything of that yet. But also, they're not going to make money if they really worry about that so much. But that's really a key part of it. With new medications, we don't know. I wasn't an anti-vaxxer. I got 3 COVID vaccines. But at the same time, first of all, I live here in Israel. We literally only had Pfizer. We were like their guinea pigs. We didn't have any other things. But I feel like a big part of it, and probably like that guy you mentioned, I forgot his name, who was that doctor who wasn't for the vaccine, but he got one. A lot of these people, when you're a healthcare worker, if you want to improve the lives of the patients and it's something that's required, or something that's like, maybe it's not for me, but it's really about kind of stepping outside yourself for a second, because they are near people who are more susceptible. So if this is legit, then I have to take that step, even if I don't want to. But, now we're like literally 3 years. Like, first of all, I should begin those years back. I just turned 31, bitch. I should literally be 28. I don't know what kind of scam this is. I should get all my money back and my age numbers. But like, or at least pay for my Botox, the government. Hello. Right. But like, it's, 3 years, and it's like, it just completely went away. We're all just like pretending like this shit didn't even happen. And it's like, I remember when they started doing it, like the airlines were requiring it. And I knew some people who weren't getting the vaccines. Mind you, these people are pumping their faces with filler and Botox, but it's like, oh, the COVID vaccine. Oh, I would never do that. And it's like, first of all, in Israel, it was not nearly as politicized as it was in America. Here, it was like, yeah, okay, you get it. In America, it became like a Democratic or Republican, some sort of opposition. But it's like, we're here. Like, when the airlines started mandating it, I was like, I had friends who were not. I was like, yeah. I was like, airlines are privately owned. So it's like, yeah, you don't want to get it. That's totally your choice. But you're not going to be able to fly with us. Like, right. I thought those, and now it's like, no, free for all for everything. No testing of any kind. There's nothing anymore. Nothing's in place. No updates. I haven't heard about a booster recently.
Because they realized it wasn't as, listen, for people that are young and healthy, they were pretty much completely fine. And the majority of the people that were affected, especially in the beginning, were elderly people and people with already existing conditions, or people who were obese. And
are you calling me obese?
I don't know. Like, I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which they said was like nothing.
Hold on. Let me just say, when the Johnson shots came out with the vaccine, I'm like, these bitches who literally just got sued for billions of dollars for their talcum powder, baby powder, that literally caused cancer to that guy, and he was able to even prove it in court. Who the hell's going to take that? And then you text our family, check out the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I was like, that's a scam. Right. And then, like, literally it was a scam.
I mean, like,
allegedly Johnson.
Any logical person would have to take a step back and think, well, these sort of companies like Pfizer, for example, like, you think they're all excited that they get to provide a vaccine for people to potentially stop this virus?
A part of it, yes. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's the chance to make billions.
No,
Billions
that's for sure
of
the
dollars.
chance. That's for sure the chance. But that's why when this whole thing happens, all the big pharma is going to make a vaccine. Because A,
Right.
who's going to be the first? And B, who's is going to be the most successful when they do independent tests? So yeah, it's about getting into market. But the funniest thing also, because when it was in the middle of like, lockdowns and all this stuff, people are like, what's taking so long? Like, this is crazy. Like, how could not even have a vaccine yet? And then it came out. People were like, whoa, that was like way too fast. Like, I can't trust that. Like,
Right.
that's way too fast. And it's like, well, which one is it? Is it too fast or is it too long? Or like, it was like a lose-lose. And it was crazy. It was crazy. But like, the thing that just drives me nuts is like, and here we are. And it's like,
It never happened. We moved on.
and like, there's I remember like talking to my therapist about it. I'm like, I feel like it could have easily been a lab leak, not like some sort of like crazy plan from China to like, because they destroyed their own economy. When people talk about that, it's like, well, they destroyed their own economy. And it's funny because a lot of my American friends talk about how this thing was really just like the government and this and that. And I'm like, right. I was like, you do realize there's countries outside of America, right? And you think like every country came together with this massive plan, including countries who are not allies, to put together this grandiose plan. Like, it's like a ridiculous thing. Like, you have to understand it. This was a worldwide thing, not a in America thing. I think it was a great way of them also testing how they could control us if they wanted to. I don't think that was what it was. But, I think that there was a good chance it was a lab leak. And, my therapist, like, at the time was like, yeah, but like, things are like conspiracy theories and stuff. And like, I don't think it was intentional, but it's very easily. Of course, they try different things. We do that in America. I'm sure plenty of other countries, they're testing things. They have to know how to constantly make new medicine. That's how you innovate. One little thing that leaks out, and that's it. It can be tiny and microscopic. So, and then they're saying, yeah, that did happen. And then America changed their mind and they're like, no, it's actually some like raccoon dog from the wet market. It's like, what the hell is a raccoon dog?
The whole thing is.
And then it switched again. And then it was like, no, yeah, we do believe it was a lab leak.
I mean,
And
they
was
were
like,
back and forth on everything, on masks, on what the vaccine does, on you can't get it again, but then you can get it again. You can give it
whether
to
or not
you
like you should inject Lysol like into your veins, like
Right.
Trump said. Yeah. So they had no idea. And it was like, it's fine. But like at the same time, like they didn't know what was going on. Like I didn't want to wear a mask. I had to wear a mask outside for a long time. I had no interest in doing that. I feel like I can't breathe. But at the same time, this is something you have to do. And if we, like people are saying, well, this thing is even as bad as they're saying, the hospitalizations aren't as bad. Okay, maybe that's true. But maybe if we didn't do all these other precautions, then this thing would have been so much worse. But the only thing that always makes me be like, I don't get it, is the fact that the Spanish flu back in the day lasted like a year and a half. And this lasted longer. So it's like in the days where literally technology and medicine was so much further behind than we are now. It's like, and that lasted shorter. Why? Because we're not like flying globally. But like that's the thing also is like people were flying globally now and like there's no checks of any kind. So it's like I literally when I was just in New York in December, I was sick as a dog. I had the flu. I was exposed to COVID. Our niece had it. And the airlines were going to make me pay to change my flight, which I had to do. And then I was sick as a dog. I was like, so this was like in 2022. So it was like, so I could board the plane to my flight internationally to Israel tonight. And there's no issue with that. But if I need to change it because I'm literally sick and I'm literally exposed to COVID, my niece who's literally sleeping in my room and she literally got a COVID test and it came up positive. But like, I have to pay a thing, like a fee if I don't go. So it's like they only care about the money. And the airlines were like the only thing where like the middle seats, like so many airlines were like, oh yeah, the middle seats, we're not doing them. I was never on a flight during COVID and I took many flights during COVID that the middle seat was empty. They did not do that and they were still overbooking flights. And it was like the one thing where like the government was like, okay, we'll be lenient on like the flights.
Right. They were like picking and choosing what they wanted to be lenient on and what they didn't. It's funny, speaking of the government, I saw yesterday, I don't know if you saw, I don't know how to pronounce her name, so I don't want to mess it up. But who's the press secretary? Biden's press secretary, Jean-Pierre.
Is she the really pretty one with the curly hair?
Yeah, Karine Jean-Pierre.
Yeah,
whatever.
She's really pretty.
So
Karine.
she got wrecked at a press conference. All the reporters on all sides from every network.
It's the worst job. Let's be real.
Hold on.
The worst job.
Yes, but this I've never seen her like this. I mean, it was all over the news, and they brought out another guy, and everyone kept asking her about Hunter Biden being invited to some White House state party or something, and they kept asking about the fact that Joe Biden said repeatedly during his 2020 campaign and afterwards that he had nothing to do ever his son's dealings with any of the Chinese executives. But
Okay.
WhatsApp messages were just recently leaked from Hunter Biden to.
How could WhatsApp messages be leaked when it's encrypted?
Because leaking it is not someone hacking into it; it's someone getting access to the messages and leaking it. Hold on. No, it's already been like presented. No one in Congress has questioned its validity. Where he clearly states, "I'm sitting here with my father, and if you don't do what we ask you to do, I'm going to use him and the connections that we have to make things very difficult for you."
Yeah, but why do you think necessarily?
Him.
No, but like that's the thing. Is first of all, everyone always rips with the Hunter Biden thing. Regardless of yes, he's a bit of a mess and everything. There's a lot of parents who are really good parents, and they do have one bad apple. And he was an addict. There was a lot of things that were going on. He tried getting his son help. Like he's a bit of a mess, but why is that immediately a reflection on him? Immediately, and it's like also at the same time, it's like just because he wrote that text message doesn't mean his father was actually there. Kind of like, it's like, when you're talking to someone, like even when you're a little kid, it's like, well, my daddy's stronger than your daddy. It's like, you have to bring that because it gives you extra backing. So I feel like it's kind of like somebody who drops names, like you're dropping celebrities' names. Like, oh, I know this person, I know this person. Because it's like, it gives you that like ego boost, but it also gives you that like, feeling of like, being elevated and stuff, putting yourself on a pedestal. And that's easily what it could have been.
So
easily.
there were two IRS.
And not that I love Biden.
There was an IRS supervisor turned whistleblower who told the House lawmakers that Justice Department prosecutors denied requests to look into messages allegedly from Hunter Biden, where he used his father as leverage to pressure a Chinese company into paying him. And he wrote,
his father's leverage.
He wrote, "I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight. I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father."
Even what you just ended with, first of all, my direction, not our direction, not my father's direction. This wasn't a Zoom
in the
call.
beginning he said our. He said we.
This wasn't a Zoom call. This wasn't an in-person meeting. There was no camera of any kind. This guy is an addict who does illegal stuff.
I lost you.
You lost me?
One second, I'm going to switch to my other headphones.
Oh, hey, Janet Jackson.
Put on my Space Cadet headphones because my AirPods just died. 1 second. Sound settings. Yeah. Okay. Can you say something?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good. I mean,
Kiva,
that's a pretty weak argument.
No, it's not, but it's not a strong argument. It's like it's less than circumstantial evidence. It's literally less than circumstantial evidence. Like it's literally he could just be saying my father's with me, doesn't mean he actually is. And that there's times that people do that all the time. And maybe his father was. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm just saying you can't say 100% the other side. And it's not like I like Hunter Biden or I'm a huge Joe Biden fan that I have to defend him at all. I just feel like, to me, that doesn't represent, like I always say, like I always try to play devil's advocate and all this stuff. To me, just because he said my father's here, that is him putting on pressure. It's not just me. Who am I? I'm just the vice president's son, the president's son. But he's here with me. So that's not just me. It's he agrees with me. He's backing me. It's leverage. Doesn't make it true. It's leverage.
It's funny. I saw a video.
I should be a fucking lawyer. Move over.
I saw a video. I mean, I don't know the full details, but I saw a video the other day of Joe Biden from years ago talking about anyone doesn't matter why, anyone who's using crack needs to be put in jail and taken off the streets. And the other half of the video is a bunch of videos of Hunter smoking crack on video and filming himself.
Right. But that doesn't make Joe Biden the hypocrite. That's why I love when people play that argument.
I mean, it does if he doesn't put his kid in jail, but
he wasn't the president or vice president then.
Put in jail.
He wasn't either one of those.
He is now.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean his son's smoking crack right now. And at the same time though, if the president, forget his son, if his focus right now was on random people in America smoking crack, as opposed to everything else that's going on in America, that would be an issue as well. Just because you say something doesn't mean that that's your objective. Unless you're AOC. But she's just like you guys. She's one of the people. Just much richer than you with a platform and really doing it for narcissistic reasons, but she's for you.
Right. I was watching a lot of the a little bit of the Howard Schultz was testifying before the, I think it's the Senate Judiciary Committee, and him and Bernie Sanders kept going at it a little bit because Bernie Sanders, he hates billionaires and kept referring to him as a billionaire.
Well, he's just a little humble, poor man.
Right. I mean, Howard Schultz, he said, he's like, this moniker billionaire. He's like, I grew up with nothing. I lived in federally subsidized housing, and I worked my butt off for every single dollar that I ever made. And we treat our employees with respect.
In America,
it was about unionizing.
You can't even get into government, especially not president or vice president or any of those things. You cannot get into it unless you have a shit ton of money or a shit ton of friends who have a shit ton of money. You just can't.
Right.
It's just not even. So, like, the whole system is literally made like that. It is. That's how people talk about, like, I know we've had this conversation before, but, like, there is, like, a lot of things in the system that are in place for a reason. They don't want to see the poorer people thrive. They don't. Kind of like the jail people that rehabilitating, they don't want to see it. And that's why when people talk about, like, like racism in the, like, what's the term again? I'm blinking right now. Like, statutory racism. No, that's not what it is. It's
institutional racism.
Is it institutional? There's another word. Okay, well, institutional racism, it's like, it's not that there's things like no black people allowed or anything like that.
You're talking systemic.
Systemic, that's what it is. Thank you.
I mean, it's the same. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, but like, it's not that it's like no black people or this and that, blah, blah, but there are certain things, and it's not things that have been in place that they just did yesterday. In some places, like Alabama or whatever, maybe, but like there are things from our past that things have been done a certain way in order to lessen the chances for certain minorities and up the chances for other minorities.
Right. So the question is, what are those things?
So that's the thing. It's like, when people talk about microaggressions and stuff, and like, there are certain things where I think getting out of context and people are too sensitive in a lot of ways, but I think that there are a lot of things that's kind of like backhanded stuff. It's like, when you tell somebody, it's like someone says what they're doing, they're like, oh, I love that for you. You love that for me? Like, why do you think that that's like the worst thing ever? Or like, is that like something that like you would never do yourself, but like you love that for me? Like, oh, good for you, bitch. Like, never touch that shit with a, 4 foot long pole, but like, good for you. It's like, so there's certain things where it's like, it kind of is punished in a way from back in those times, kind of like how Jews are suppressed in a lot of ways. And we've always had to fight those barriers. But there are a lot of things, and it's not just with, that's why I hate when people say that, but they're like, well, it's not just black people. It's not just black people. It's a lot of people of color and also religions and Judaism as well. And even as a gay man, there are things that were put in place that prevented us from doing a lot of things. And it's like, there are things that are being made progress towards, and it's like, that's amazing in the, in the LGBTQ plus community. There are a long way to go still with the transgender community. But yeah, hold on. Actually, now talking about this topic, we have to get into what happened a few weeks ago. Actually, now that we're mentioning it, because there's this Jewish singer named Hanala. And for any of my Orthodox Jews out there, who are familiar with her, I never really listened to Jewish music. It was never my jam. Like, in Israeli music, Hebrew music in general, sure. But people who don't understand, like in the Orthodox Jewish community, it's a lot of like Americanized, like, it's yeshivish music, which I don't know how to really translate that into regular English, but like, it's not like that it's Jewish, which I didn't like it. It was just it's hard to explain. But like, there's this one singer, Hanala, and she had like this album, and mind you, it's like in the back of the album, like, it's called Isha, which means it's a woman's voice, so like only women should hear this album. But like, my mom let me listen to that anyways, since like, who cares, I'm gay anyways. But like, her, like, it was this first album she had, it was called Believer, and it was like, it was really good, and there was like something about the songs, like, I really loved that album. Like that, like, literally, I was trying to have my mom find this album a year ago within the house because I couldn't find a digital download of it. It wasn't on Spotify or Apple Music, and I wanted her to get it because I liked a couple of these songs. Like, I really liked it. It's like, why the hell would I listen to it? I'm freaking listening to Megan Thee Stallion, and I'm listening to Hanala, Right. She went on this whole rant because there were these two Orthodox from girls who got married, and they had this whole ceremony, and it was videotaped. But of course, being Orthodox and Jewish and gay, it's like this thing went viral and sent around, because even when it was sent to our family chat, it showed like forwarded many times on WhatsApp, like, because people in the Jewish community, unfortunately, gossip like crazy and things spread like wildfire. Mind you, even though Lashon Hara, which is speaking with a bad tongue, about other people is one of the worst things you could do. Unfortunately, it's something that's extremely prevalent. It's not just gossiping. It's like everyone's up in everyone's business. But this video went viral everywhere. And, you know, people had their opinions of this and then, oh, blah, blah. And it's like, you know, you might not do something in a certain way. You know, like when, like, you know, someone said to me, I'm not going to say who, but like someone said to me, you know, well, even you told me, like, if you were to get married, like, you wouldn't do like a ketubah, which is like, you know, the thing that you sign for the Jewish marriage and everything like that, because you said that's not something that's like in the Torah. And I was like, you know, first of all, I don't know about my exact feelings. I don't even know if I'm ever even getting married. I don't even know if it's something I want. But just because that's not something I would do, or maybe I believe, doesn't mean I'm going to look at someone else and be like, that's wrong. And especially when it's like, it's not even looking at, you know, looking at the positive side from these Orthodox people's life. It's like, look at these girls like, wow, they're lesbian and they're getting married, but it's like, but they're still religious. They still hold on to that part. Instead of looking at the positive aspect of it, is looking at the negative. And this woman, Hanala, went on this whole rant, disgusting, that I didn't even know about it on her Instagram stories, that my mother reached out to her and said something really.
Well, I don't think it was about that.
No, this is what it was about.
When mom reached out, it was about what she said on the podcast and what she wrote on her Instagram stories.
Because it was the whole week.
But hold on. What she said in the voice note about those two girls at the wedding, that was posted on Twitter.
Hold on. First of all, I know who posted it, but second of all, she was talking about these things. Very like beating around the bush, but talking about it. Didn't call them out, but definitely talking about it. It was very obvious. And, you know, you know, these people said, just because I want to do something, I'm not going to judge somebody else. It's their own thing. Looking at it from a positive aspect, it's not affecting your life in any way. It's not doing anything, and you don't know what they actually did. And it's disgusting. So she wrote this whole thing. My mother reached out to her in a really short, really short, really sweet message, like, you know, telling her. Like,
wait, I just want to preface that one of the things that she said for why she was speaking out was that her godly soul would not allow her to remain quiet, and she has to speak out against this atrocity.
Exactly. So
something along those lines.
Let me just quickly read this thing because I have to read it because I don't want to misquote. But my mother messaged her. She wrote, "Do you also speak up against people that are dishonest in business?" That's a big one. For those who don't know, you're asked 3 questions by God according to Judaism when you die. And when you die, 3 main questions. One of them is, were you honest in business? Not, were you gay? Were you honest in business? Be grateful that you are not dealing with a sibling or child that is gay. Your words can cause someone to kill themselves because they are so ashamed. Does your godly soul, which she referred herself as, does your godly soul tell you that's okay? She replied to my mother, "I think you should hash this out with your therapist." So my mom responds, "I'm a religious Jew and it's part of my life. My son is gay. I don't get it because I'm not. It's been a very long process. If you can dish it out, you should be able to take it better than blowing me off like that." So she wrote, "I don't have to take anything from anybody. That's the beauty of Instagram. Take care now." So I wrote her this whole letter, and I never get involved with this drama. A really nice written letter. I would have read the whole thing, but it's very long. But you guys could look on my Instagram, at Sheldon Brock. I can't go through the whole thing now. But I wrote her this whole letter, super nice, and explaining to her how a lot of people go through these tragedies and, like, you know, how difficult it is, and, like, you know, talking about Klal Yisrael, which is one nation, and how God, you know, we're his chosen people. We're not all in these separated sects. We're supposed to be one nation, and there's such a divide, and how stuff like this is contributing to it. This whole really nice letter I wrote to her, and she responded back to me, "You're not that special." Mind you, the whole letter wasn't about
everyone
me.
Suffers. You're not that special.
Right. Everybody suffers. You're not that special. My entire letter was literally not about me. It was about people who go through these kinds of situations and how this kind of stuff is really affecting it. Not that this affected me. Not that I want to kill myself because of your words. Not that I'm literally crying because of your words. But being a person in the LGBTQ plus community who's gone through times where I literally was at the verge easily of killing myself, I know what it's like. And if I didn't have that support of my family and a lot of people around me, it could have gotten to that point easily. So there's a lot of people out there who are not as lucky as I am, which is why I wanted to say anything, not because of me. So to even have that kind of thing back to me, it's like, you completely missed the point. And the way I came off was so, like, it was really nicely written. Like, I was talking about how I was a fan of hers and I liked her music and all this stuff. And, like, I was trying to show her in a way where it's like, you know, I don't think you understand, like, you know, what these people go through or what your words could do. And it was just so disheartening and so horrible, her response and everything. And it's like, a lot of people reached out to me actually about that and saying like, how she's so bad and everything, which is not the point that I liked, but it was nice that people who I haven't spoken to in years, who have nothing to do with, reached out to me, that they were horrified. And it's like, it's really hard as, these kinds of people, like I have a lot of friends who like they had really bad experiences where they viewed the entire Jewish community as so negative. But it's like, but then as something as horrible as this was, I had a lot of people who reached out to me who were like so against her, who were really like, this is horrible. And people who knew her personally. So it's like, and then she sent a whole disgusting voice message that did get leaked. And then she was like, I have children. You have children. The stuff you said was horrendous. Don't say things like that to people. You sent a voice note on WhatsApp to somebody. The things that came out of your mouth were atrocious. Either you're like a horrible, bitter woman or girl, not even a woman, or you're some really closeted lesbian who hasn't gotten laid in a long ass time that you feel the need to go berserk and crazy like this.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, horrible. For me, I feel like, first of all, on the my godly soul point and that sort of angle.
God don't want your soul, bitch.
Issues, that the reason that bothers me, and again, I'm obviously, I'm not gay. I don't understand. I can't begin to understand the struggles or what it's like. But to put yourself in a place where it comes off very much as I'm high and holy, and therefore I need to speak out against these atrocities. There's so much that goes on, and there's so many terrible things that take place, and this isn't even close to being the primary issue or controversy within the Jewish world. To pretend like you're so high and holy that you can't hold back from saying something so detrimental when you have no idea, you don't even have the slightest clue about what it's like. Have you ever had a conversation with someone in the LGBT community? Have you ever spoken to someone who grew up struggling with their sexuality? Have you ever spoken to them and learned about the experiences that they went through and the difficult times that they went through? Have you ever spoken to someone who was suicidal because their family, community, and friends were not accepting of them? I mean, like to pretend because you're religious, because you keep Shabbos and eat kosher, that now you're the tzaddik, you're the righteous person of the generation who has to go out there.
Especially when those two girls who got married are keeping kosher and keeping Shabbos as well.
Like, it's just that really bothers me. Like the whole idea, and there is a verse in the Torah to rebuke your fellow man. If you actually learn any of the commentaries, you have to be an extremely
love your neighbor like you love yourself
in order to do that. Yeah. And there's a reason that there are people who are much greater than her that are not making this a priority and running out there and saying this is terrible and we need to do something. And another point, and this is a point we spoke about on the last podcast as well, especially when it comes to these issues, which, like you said, people have taken their own lives over these things, either because of being ashamed of themselves or being completely shunned from the family. I personally know people who were completely cut off from their families because of this. When it comes to potentially losing a life, I don't care how you feel, and I don't care what your perspectives are. The most important thing is making sure that person is okay and showing them love and support. That's 100%. It. Anything else that you want to try to throw at me, in no way is ever going, halachically either, is ever going to trump the importance of preserving a human life and making sure that a person feels like they are okay and they do have something to contribute and they are valuable and they are important and they are precious. And something that one of my rabbis said to me that I think about, it was in a specific context, but it applies to everyone always. Rabbi Shammai Warman, shout out. He's my rabbi in Leva Torah. He also went to school with Dad. He said to me right before the end of my first year in yeshiva, when I was struggling with something or whatever it is, I was worried to go home. And he said, if you wake up in the morning, that means that God wants you here. He wants you here. If you wake up today, and I'm speaking now to everyone, if you woke up this morning, which obviously you did, that means that God wants you here for a specific reason. He's not here to torture us. He's here to, my opinion, to love us and to allow us to experience love.
And literally,
and the greatest way to exemplify, right, and we were created in God's image, right? And the greatest way to exemplify that is to show love and compassion beyond what even you deem deserving of love and compassion, because God shows us love and compassion every day. And I can guarantee that most of us don't necessarily deserve that love and compassion based on what we've done or do. So to pretend like we're now judges and we're now lawmakers and we can decide who's right and who's wrong when God knows what we do in our free time or in our private life or what goes on in our mind is beyond mind-boggling.
Yeah. And it's like, what I've spoken about, like the episode where I talked about like my whole coming out story. It's like, just on that point, when I was in high school, like, in Orthodox Judaism, when you wake up in the morning, you're supposed to say a thing like Moda'ani, like thanking God for like, bringing your soul back to life because, you're like half dead when you sleep. So like your soul like goes like up or something. I remember waking up in high school and feeling like, shit, I'm still here. Like, I remember hearing about people who died and wished, like, why couldn't that happen to me? Like, that's how I felt at that time, that I would have rather have been dead than to live this kind of life. And also, like, even when you were saying, like, how you can't understand someone who's like that. And no matter how many times I could explain or tell you stories or people you meet, you can't understand what it's like to be in someone's shoes. Just like there's a lot of things that go on in your life, or even being a father, even though I do have a cat and a dog, I will never know what that's like. I might want to learn about it more, like, stuff like that. But that doesn't mean I'm not in those shoes. Just like if I got pulled over by the cops, I'd be freaking out like, crap, am I going to get a ticket? Whereas someone who's Black in America gets pulled over by the cops and it's like, shit, and is this guy going to be racist? Is this guy not going to be racist? Am I going to end up in jail? Like, there's so many other things. I'll never know what that's like. I'll never know. I can't pretend. So for someone to not just be like tone deaf and not, maybe she's just really so uneducated because she grew up in some sort of crazy bubble. Her response wasn't just tone deaf. It was like so aggressive and angry and bitter that like it's something deep rooted to have that kind of like hatred where it's not just something you disagree with. It's something you vehemently, it cannot even like, you just can't even let anything go. It's horrifying.
Yeah, as we said last time, hate is never going to solve anything, and all of the greatest people I've read about, learned about, or met have only ever shown love and compassion to every single human being that they have ever encountered. And I have never met someone, a truly great person, or someone that I respect, ever treat anyone with anything less than respect, because everyone is a human, and that we're all actual, when I took an Uber ride a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast, it was a non-Jewish guy, but he was just sharing a lot of deep Torah with me, and he was saying a lot of very special things. And one of the things he said is we have to remember that behind all these controversies or topics or ideologies are real human beings who are currently experiencing these things and experiencing extreme difficulties and struggles, whether it be emotionally or mentally, in their relationships with their friends or family. And you have to be so careful with what you say and how you say it and who you say it to. And this doesn't have to do with whether or not you should be allowed to say things to people. Just be a mensch, right? That's what Dad used to always say. Just be a mensch. Treat people with respect. Treat people how you would want to be treated. Say things to people that only you would be okay with people saying to you or about you. And to think that you're going to be able to that we're going to be able to make progress as a people or as a religion or as a community by pushing other people away and hating on other people is never going to work. It's never worked, and it is the antithesis of what we're here to do as human beings created in the image of God, an all-loving God. We have to be able to show other people, and listen, it could be hard because we don't understand it. It could feel weird because it's such a foreign concept. So you take the time to learn and to sit down with someone, have a conversation with someone, just listen.
And like that's the thing, like especially in PC culture and everything, it's like everyone's entitled to their feelings. You can't tell someone, hey, there's people who literally, it's like, people like after her response, I wasn't going to respond to her because it's like talking to a brick wall. There's certain people who literally, it's like they don't know better because they grew up in such a crazy like life that they don't understand. But maybe if you explain it to them, well, this is a brick wall. And it's like, it's really understanding that's like, it has to get to a point where, like, if you have certain feelings, that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their feelings, but you can't weaponize your feelings because you feel a certain way that you then have to attack somebody else. Just because you feel something and you're entitled to those feelings, you can't hurt somebody with that. And the culture we're living in, that's what we'll do. I have feelings. Only my feelings matter. I'm going to attack you. Digitally, physically, it's like that's the kind of world you're living in now. But I know we're running into late in that episode. I just quickly want to talk about the OceanGate Titan situation that happened.
All right.
Because I did want to talk about this, but unfortunately we didn't film last week when it was all going on. we don't have to go so deep into it. Everyone's like covered the situation. But the thing for me and talking about similar with this situation is the fact that forget like now that we know what happened. While the whole situation was still going on and there was a chance that, you know, a lot of people thought that these people were stuck in the bottom of the ocean, the dark abyss with zero electricity, with literally like their oxygen levels like depleting rapidly in the freezing cold deep sea. Everyone's like I'm on social media because I do this for work and everything, and it's like hashtag rich people problems. Oh, that's what happens when you have too much money, like all this stuff. It's like there's people saying such horrible things, and it's like,
yep,
we're living in a society where like also like being rich is a bad thing. Like there's people who are scam artists. There's, you know, cryptocurrency scams all the time. There's people who take advantage of people. There's people like Trump, you know, there's all these things, but it's like not everyone who has money is a white supremacist, racist, Nazi that wants to ruin your life. Not everyone's like that. And now it's like being rich is a bad thing, and people are just attacking before they have money. These people literally, if they're not dead, they're at the bottom of the ocean, slowly dying, knowing their death, when the world literally doesn't know where they are. And like that's what everyone's focusing on, is the fact that they're rich people and these are rich people's problems.
Complete lack of sensitivity.
And it's like complete all these things in like hindsight, you could say, oh, well, this and this and this. Yeah, because the thing fucking imploded. But there wasn't a whole crazy backlash back when it was all going down. They had a letter from somebody. They had a one whistleblower, whether or not it was this submarine or a different one they made in the past. We don't know. But like there were so many people involved. P.H. Angele, who was on the thing, literally went to Titanic 35 times. The CEO of the fucking company died on the submarine. If he was just some scumdog who wanted a shit ton of money, you think he would have put himself in the fucking submarine to die with them? Like, it clearly he felt it was safe enough. And he wasn't some idiot. He was literally a Stanford graduate. He did know a lot of things. There are some things looking hindsight, like the carbon fiber, because, you know, like you and I, we both love cars, so we know what carbon fiber is. We know how it's made and everything. So for something that's literally not a solid thing like steel, where it's literally a woven fabric, it does have gaps in it, even if they're super tight. So it's like, there are things, but they've also been down there many times before this happened. This is the fifth or the seventh mission. So it's like,
I mean, I think if there is a silver lining, it's that now that we know that it was an implosion, at least they didn't know what was happening. They didn't feel any pain. And
that's the thing.
Instantaneous.
And now their families are still not only having to deal with that suffering of their, I mean, not the suffering, but the death of their loved ones. They have to see other people online who are just bashing them just because they have money. Right. Like if this was a free trip and people who didn't have money won in the lottery to get these tickets, would we be reacting the same way? Or would we be freaking out of how horrible what a tragedy for these people. It was supposed to be the best thing of their life. They won the lottery and now they're dead because they didn't have money. We all have to learn to be a little bit more sensitive people, including myself. 100%. I mean, not that I'm not perfect, but you know.
Sensitivity, love, listening. Those are the only ways that we're going to
hashtag live, laugh, love. Instead of every basic white girl.
Laugh, love. Hopefully now we'll be a little bit more back on schedule, and God willing, my family's going to be going to Israel July 17th.
Maybe we could have an in-person podcast.
Maybe this time we could actually do an in-person podcast. But hopefully we'll be back on schedule for the next couple of weeks, and we'll catch everyone next week.
See you then.
Don't forget to love everyone and listen and comfort the people around you and support those who need it.
And like and subscribe.
And
just as important,
you
guys.
Next week,
one like equals one more loving person in the world. You know how those YouTubers do that?
Exactly.
Shit? Most disingenuous bullshit ever.
But feel free to drop a like because you might save a life by doing it.
Yeah, at least our lives. Okay.
Right, and we'll catch everyone on the next episode.
Bye.
Take care.